welcome to Granada Reports. First with the news in the northwest.
Hello there. On the programme this evening.
He had a massive audience and he could pick them out like a sweet shop.
He was the teacher that everyone feared, I thought anyway. Well, I feared him more than anything.
A Granada Reports exclusive. A former church deacon is jailed for abusing schoolboys. We follow the case through the justice system and hear the victims' stories.
Also tonight, the biker who posted this dramatic footage on the internet and ended up in court is spared prison.
I owe them my life. A big thank you to the 12-year-olds who came to the rescue of a woman trapped after a car accident.
And something for United to celebrate. The country's most expensive footballer is unveiled, and the new captain of England is theirs as well.
But we start tonight with that 9-year jail sentence for a former teacher who sexually and physically abused boys at a prestigious school near Altrincham.
Alan Morris, a former church deacon, was convicted earlier this year of 19 offences against 10 boys. They took place between 1973 and 1990 at St Ambrose College.
But his case can only now be reported after the end of a second trial at which he was cleared of similar offences.
Alan Morris was a person that these people, these victims, looked to guide them, and as a result of his position of trust, he was able to carry out acts of punishment as he saw them for his own sexual gratification.
Well, tonight we bring you an exclusive report by one of the victims. He withdrew his right to have his evidence heard in court so he could tell his story and follow the first trial through the courts.
Yeah, David Nolan was a pupil at St Ambrose. His parents were proud he'd won a scholarship to attend such a prestigious school.
But David's school days proved to be far from happy, as he was one of the boys to be abused by Alan Morris. Tonight, David tells us his story in the hope it will give courage to others.
Here's me, age 7, all ready for my first day at St Ambrose College in September 1972, the exact same time that Alan Morris joined the school. Here he is in a school photo from the 70s. Here's me, a few rows behind him. St Ambrose was a Catholic school run by Christian brothers. It was tough. Corporal punishment was woven into the very fabric of the place. Beatings were commonplace, part of school life. Most of the teachers had their own preferred weapon of choice.
I was hit with leather straps, rubber hoses, the cane, kitchen utensils, shoes, even a sawn-off cricket bat like this that you had to autograph afterwards. It was a tough school by anyone's standards, and Alan Morris, as well as teaching chemistry, was also head of discipline.
He was the teacher that everyone feared, I thought anyway. Well, I feared him more than anything. And other teachers would run to him if things were going awry in a classroom, and you'd be then asked to go into his room, on his dark room during lunchtime generally, and make you feel humiliated. He had a very imposing figure and looked down on you.
He was head of discipline and he would march around the school looking for pupils, and then he would pick them off, take them somewhere where only he and the pupil were, to do the corporal punishment and sexually abuse them at the same time. He had a massive audience and he could pick them out like a sweet shop.
For years there was a wall of silence around Alan Morris and what happened at St Ambrose. That changed in 2001 when one boy came forward and told police what had happened to him. I spoke to him. We protected his identity.
There was a dawning sense of just how dangerous Alan Morris is. And when I discovered he was in charge of groups of children, there was only one possibility. I had to tell somebody so they could make him stop.
But they didn't believe you?
They did believe me, but unfortunately there was no corroboration of that evidence, so he was allowed to go free.
How was that for you at the time? How did you feel that? Because you knew, I knew, we all knew.
I felt like absolutely nothing had changed, and that wasn't good enough.
It would be another decade till another boy came forward, when the memories of St Ambrose became too much to bear. The wall of secrecy and silence around Alan Morris, built up over decades, was beginning to break down piece by piece.
I came forward and gave evidence against Alan Morris, and I spoke to detectives based here at the Child Protection Unit in Altrincham. I felt better almost straight away, but I also thought if I could convince the police to let me film them during the trial and speak to witnesses and victims, maybe it could help make the whole process seem a little less daunting, and maybe it could convince other people to come forward too.
It's 8 a.m. at Altrincham Police Station, and officers involved in the Alan Morris case are preparing to go to trial.
So, what is all this stuff? It's very heavy.
This is the whole paper file.
So all those lads, those boys I used to go to school with, that's their kind of stories in those boxes in a way, isn't it?
Yeah.
Should we see it at court then?
Yeah.
Right.
Just, how are you feeling?
Um,
And I'm only asking that because I know that you were originally a victim and that you have retracted your sort of right to give evidence, but you're still a victim and we do still have a duty of care.
Yeah,
So
no,
just,
that's nice of you. Thank you. Half of me is like, come on, let's go, let's get to court, let's see him, all the rest of it. And half of me is, I wish it had never been opened up. Wish I'd never met you in the nicest way. I wish I'd never come here. I wish it had all stayed in the past. So it's half and half, if I'm honest.
Inside court, Alan Morris faced his accusers. Some of them were my old school friends. Their stories were all lies, he said, a fantastic concoction of untruths. He said he didn't even remember many of the boys who were now his accusers. I wondered if he'd remember me.
Here's Alan Morris, not seen him for 30-odd years. David Nolan, do you remember me, Mr. Morris? Will you be remembering the school motto, Mr. Morris? Vitam impendero vero. It means life depends on truth. Life depends on truth. And we'll see.
But how was it for the other witnesses and victims, seeing the man who had terrified us as boys all those years ago?
I was glad to see him in court, and I was looking not for retribution but some form of justice.
Hand on heart, I didn't feel much. I'd dealt with it by then. He's irrelevant to me. It's never been quite real what happened, but it shows that a perverse paedophile can look like the bloke next door. It can be anyone. I find it hard to believe that anyone can be that twisted and appear to be a normal functioning person.
Perhaps he regarded as the abuse, the sexual abuse and the physical abuse that he gave to these children as almost payment in some respects for the education they were receiving at St Ambrose. I don't see a man filled with remorse, and I don't see a man that actually recognises that what he did was, wrong, unethical, and unlawful.
Back at court, it's week 3 of the trial. The evidence is over, and the 12 members of the jury have been sent out to consider their verdicts. It took them 3 days.
Right, OK.
Then, mid-afternoon on Friday, there was a sudden rush of activity.
We've just come out of court. What's happened?
Alan Morris has been found guilty of all the indictments, and they've remanded him in custody.
Right, OK. So you weren't sure, though, were you? If I'm honest.
I was always sure. I was always sure.
I know, but you were...
Yeah, but you've got 12 people, haven't you? They've got to make sure they're 100% sure, and there was a lot of evidence, and I think they took their time, and they've got the right verdict.
Guilty on all charges. Now, you and I have spent an awful lot of time together over the last few weeks, and I think it's really important that people know. You got quite upset sometimes, didn't you? Quite.
I have, yeah. I'm human.
It has been, hasn't it?
Yeah,
It's been...
it has. I owe you a hug.
You do? Yeah.
Well, earlier Detective Constable Nicola Graham and David Nolan joined me, and I began by asking David what it was like to face his former school teacher and abuser in court after 40 years.
I tried all sorts of different sort of clever ways to prepare myself, and then, strangely enough, I bumped into him in the loos at the court, which was a very strange experience, and then...
Were you scared? Did he frighten you?
Yes, I was scared. As
a grown man, he still frightened you?
Absolutely, yeah. you might leave school, but it never leaves you, you know, and it was. And that moment, and you see there where I'm waiting for him, I was 12 again, you know, I'm 50 now, but at that moment I was 12 years old again, you know.
Nicola, how difficult a journey is it for people like David and all the other guys who have come forward?
It's very difficult because you've got to, if you come forward as a victim of sexual abuse, you've got to tell a complete stranger who you've never met before some very sensitive and intimate details of what happened to you as a child. And it's very, very difficult, especially for men to come forward as well as women, but it's a very difficult process.
Now, with regards to the physical abuse, there are some older people watching who'll say, look, that was discipline, that's the way it was. Where was it where you feel that he just crossed the line?
Well, I think the law states that it's reasonable and appropriate, proportionate physical punishment. As you saw on the piece, I was hit with cricket bats. I was hit with leather straps. I was whipped with rubber hoses. Now, at no stage is that in any way proportionate or appropriate. It's completely disproportionate and inappropriate. But what Alan Morris did that was his excuse. You know, that was his way in to carry out the indecent assaults. So the actual beatings were in a sense irrelevant to him. It was just a means to an end. And
how important was it for you to withdraw your evidence and tell this story as a producer, as a TV person?
If I'd have had my day in court, that probably would have made me feel pretty good, I have to say. But being able to see the whole process, spend a huge amount of time with the Nicola and the other officers, I actually, in a kind of selfish way, got more out of it in a way than anyone, because I was able to see, I stood on the court steps and I saw one of my old friends that I hadn't seen for 30 odd years, and that second we saw each other, we both knew why we were there, and we both went like that. And that's an amazing moment. So I've got a massive amount out of it. But if I can do it, if I can speak, that means anybody else can as well.
Which is where I was going to ask you, Nicola, how convinced, sure, are you there are more out there, more victims, more people who were abused?
Yeah, we believe there are more victims. It was a big school, and the period of abuse spanned a number of years. I think we've only touched the tip of the iceberg, because a lot of people are not as brave as David and wouldn't have the bravery to come forward.
OK. Nicola Graham and also David Nolan, thank you both very much indeed for talking to me today. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, in a statement, the governors of St Ambrose College expressed their sincere regret and described Morris's betrayal of trust as abhorrent. They added, "We would like to reassure parents, guardians and relatives that we have contemporary child safety policies in place, and ensuring our pupils enjoy a happy and secure childhood and adolescence is our absolute priority."
Yeah, you can see more on this story by going to our website, itv.com/Granada. You will also find all the day's news, sport and weather on there as well.